Hey, what's up guys? Combat Critic here. In this video, I want to give my pick for this upcoming fight between Nassourdine Imavov and Chris Curtis. Let's get started. So if we look at the records of these two guys, starting with Imavov, he has 16 fights and he has won 12, lost 4. Out of his 12 wins, 5 have come via knockout, 4 have come via submission and 3 have come via decision. If we talk about his 4 losses, so he has never been knocked out and he has been submitted once and he's lost via decision thrice. So he is 50-50 in decisions, and this also shows that he has a good chin on him. If we talk about the wins, he is a pretty balanced fighter. He can knock you out as well as submit you. Now let's talk about Chris Curtis. He is not as balanced as Nasruddin and he has 40 fights, so significantly huge, MMA experience for Chris Curtis. He is 130 and lost 10. Out of his 30 wins, 17 have come via knockout and 12 have come via decision. So this shows that he is a striker. He is looking to knock you out, and if he doesn't knock you out, he'll likely win via decision. He's win he's won just one fight via submission. All the others have either been knockout wins or decision wins. If we talk about the 10 losses, he's been knocked out just once. This shows that he also has a very good chin, and he's been submitted once and 8 times he's lost via decision. So if he loses, it's a decision loss really. And it's similar for Nasruddin. If we talk about the stats, including the physical stats and the career stats of these two guys, starting with the height, it is 6 feet 3 for Imavov and it is 5 feet 10 for Chris. So a huge 5-inch reach advantage goes to Imavov. Weight is 185 for both these guys unless somebody misses weight, and reach is 75 inches for Imavov and 75 for Chris, so nobody has a reach advantage really. Stance is orthodox for both these guys. If we talk about the age, this is where Imavov has an advantage. He is the younger fighter by about 7 years and Chris Curtis is the older guy. Now let's talk about the career stats, starting with the striking numbers. First up, we have the strikes landed per minute. This signifies the number of significant strikes that you land on your opponent per minute on average. That is 4.32 for Imavov and 5.59 for Chris Curtis. So Chris Curtis has an advantage here. He hits a lot often and is more busier on the feet. If we talk about the striking accuracy, it is 51% for Imavov and 50% for Chris Curtis. So both these guys are pretty even, but a very slight advantage goes to Imavov. If we talk about the strikes absorbed per minute, this is 3.81 for Imavov. This signifies the number of significant strikes that you absorb from your opponent per minute on average, and it is 6.22 for Chris Curtis. So in this case, the lower number is better. So the advantage goes to Imavov. Striking defense is 59% for Imavov and 55% for Chris Curtis. So again, the advantage goes to Imavov. Overall, the, these stats will have you believe that Imavov is a better striker defensively and he is more accurate. However, keep in mind that the style of Chris Curtis is not really, one punch knockout or being slick with it. He just wants to fight and he goes to have wars, which is why his strikes absorbed per minute, this number is really high at 6.22. I think if Imavov fights him, he will get a lot more. He will get hit a lot more, and this 3.81 will really swell up by the end of this fight, because these two guys have fought different level of competition in the UFC. Chris Curtis has a lot more UFC fights than Imavov, so his stats are pretty much closer to reality compared to Imavov. Imavov has not fought at the highest level in the UFC till now. He's fought some guys, but not of the same caliber as Chris Curtis has fought. Now let's talk about the wrestling, grappling, and BJJ stats of these two guys. Takedown average is 0.68 for Imavov and it is 0 for Chris Curtis. So Chris Curtis is really a striker and he doesn't really use his wrestling or grappling in the UFC. Takedown accuracy is 22% for Imavov, which is not good, but it is 0% for Chris Curtis. So again, Imavov has an advantage here. Takedown defense 72% for Imavov and it is 100% for Chris Curtis. Submission average 1.7 for Imavov. This is where he has a huge advantage over Chris Curtis, whose submission average is 0. Chris has never attempted a submission in the UFC. If we look at the previous fights of these two guys, starting with Imavov, in his last fight, he lost to Sean Strickland via unanimous decision, and this was a clear-cut loss. Happened this year in January in a 5-round fight, and before that, he beat Joaquin Buckley via unanimous decision in a 3-round fight. In September of last year, he beat Edmund Shabazian via TKO in November in the second round, and before that, he beat Ian Heinisch via TKO in the second round. This was in July of 2021. So this man really fought once in 2022, thrice in 2021, and now he is making his second appearance in 2023. Before that, he lost to Phil House via decision majority, and this was in a 3-round fight. Before that, he beat Jordan Williams in his UFC debut via unanimous decision. This was back in October of 2020 in a 3-round fight. So this man has had 6 fights in the UFC. He's won 4 of them. He's lost 2. Now let's talk about Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis in his last fight lost to Kelvin Gastelum. This was a great fight between these two guys, and this was a unanimous decision loss, but a very close fight nevertheless. This happened in April of this year, so he is making a quick turnaround. Before that, he beat Joaquin Buckley via knockout, and he trains with Sean Strickland and Buckley, so this man gets the best of striking that you can get in the middleweight division. And Sean Strickland, if you see here, he beat Nassourdine in the via unanimous decision in January. So I think because he is a sparring partner of Chris Curtis, I think this gives him a huge advantage over Nassourdine. And if we talk about the fight before that, he lost to Jack Hermanson via unanimous decision in July of last year. Before that, he beat Rodolfo Vieira via unanimous decision and Brendan Allen via TKO, Phil House via knockout. And these are all his fights. So he has fought 6 times in the UFC. He has won 4, just like Nassourdine, lost 2. Overall, if I have to pick a winner of this fight, I'll have to pick Chris Curtis. I think he is the better striker, and it's very hard to beat him in his own game, which is striking. And for Nasruddin, I don't think he has the knockout power to, finish Chris Curtis, nor does he have the skills to outstrike Chris Curtis in the striking department. He has the better wrestling, but again, the takedown accuracy is just 22% for Imavov, and the takedown defense of Chris Curtis is 100%, and that's all he really needs to train for this fight. He just has to train some of his takedown defense, and even if he stuffs, I think, 1 or 2 takedowns of Imavov early, that will discourage Imavov, and then Imavov will resort to striking. And once you are striking with these guys, Sean Strickland, Chris Curtis, it's very hard to beat them in striking unless you have that knockout power that Alex Pereira has, or you are very crafty like Israel Adesanya. I don't think Imavov has either of those things, which is why I'm picking Chris Curtis to win via unanimous decision. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.